Alright, hello everybody, this is Joe Chambers from 1911 University, Chambers Custom, and tonight what we're going to do is I'm going to do the second Q&A that I launched about a week ago, asking you all to submit your questions, and we'll go through those questions and I'll answer them as best I can. First question from Robert Rockefeller: do you build 1911s with a full frame rail, or do you remove part of the rail over the magazine? We build our single stacks with full frame rails. The 2019s come standard with the partial rails from the manufacturer. The reason I leave the rails on a single stack is I think it's actually a little bit stronger, and it gives you a little bit better slide to frame fit long term if it's done properly. If I could get them made from the manufacturer that makes our frames for us for the 2019s, I would have those made with full rails also, but that hasn't been an option. So yeah. Chris Miranda wants to know, are you more driven by a fear of failure or the excitement of success? Excuse me. That's a great question, Chris. I would say, for me, I'm never afraid of failure, because if you fail at something, to me personally, that's a learning experience. I do get excited by success, I'm not going to lie. I'm a pretty driven person when it comes to being able to try new things, do new things. I have limitations, like I'll never go skydiving, for example. I just see no point in jumping out of a perfectly good airplane. That's just my own personal feelings about it. But I do get excited about success. I get excited about new projects, trying new things. I get excited about innovating, and creating stuff that people have never seen before on these guns. That really excites me more than anything, and that's probably my drive. I've often opined to Heidi, my wife, that when this gets boring, I quit. So far, it hadn't been boring. I've enjoyed most all of the builds that I've done over the years. There have been builds that I've labored through simply because one reason or another. But for the most part, I really enjoy what I do here and what the guys do here. Jesse wants to know, can I discuss 38 Super versus 38 Super Comp? Sure. Issues with feeding, if it's not loaded properly, if the magazines aren't done properly, if the gun's not built properly. So we build guns in the 38 Super variety primarily. I do occasionally do regular 38 Supers for clients who have specific needs. They have a lot of brass, or they've been shooting that caliber for a long time. They have other guns in a regular 38 Super. And to be honest with you, as far as a build goes, it's not much different other than the extractor fit. That's pretty much the main difference. I've built 38 Supers and supplied a 38 Super Comp extractor for the client so that they could swap back and forth. But the 38 Super Comp is a stronger piece of brass. It's engineered stronger, it has a thicker web in the base, and overall it does feed and function better than the standard 38 Super. Alright, when will the details of the Freedom Fighter be open to getting on the list? So we're going to launch the Freedom Fighter officially on September 11th. That is the plan currently. I'll talk a little bit later at the end of this video. I'll talk specifically about the Freedom Fighter and the configuration of it. Just for you Patreons, please keep it private because I'm not releasing the public to the public the details of the Freedom Fighter just yet. But I'm going to launch it. You're going to see the first pictures, hopefully, if everything works out and the DLC works out, on September 11th. It's a commemorative gun that Chuck and I have designed, specifically designed around September 11th and the idea of freedom and never forgetting that event in our history. All right, do we have any plans to start using, this is from Austin, do we have any plans to start using Staccato Gen 2 grip modules, or do you still prefer their Gen 1 modules? No, I don't, because there's some fitment issues between our frames and the Gen 2 modules. So for the time being, I'm going to continue to use the Gen 1 modules, and I'm actually working right now to try to get some more green ones made. I don't know that that's going to work out. I really hope it does, but we'll see how that goes in the future. Austin also asks, do I have any plans to do armorer gunsmith level videos to show your process? No, at this time I don't, Austin, and the main reason is Patreon doesn't allow me to share technical building videos or information due to ITAR regulations. So it's kind of a no-go at this station due to Patreon. I've done some videos over the years for students who have asked specifically for things and sent them to them privately on a per item basis. They pay me for a video, and I've done stuff like that to help them out. But that's not something that I'm going to do through Patreon simply because they won't allow it. All right, next question comes from Jacob Edgar. I know you talked about this before, but not the second part of this question. Dropping the slide on an empty chamber, would the same ill effects happen while using competition mags with no lockback? Yes. If you drop the slide on an empty chamber, you do risk damage to the hammer sear interface. Doesn't matter what kind of mags you're using, doesn't matter what how the slide stop's modified. You risk damage to the sear and hammer interface. You also risk damage to the barrel legs or the slide stop because the slide isn't being slowed by the round that it's trying to pick up in the magazine. So it's just not a good practice to do that repeatedly. We do it in the shop to test for safety purposes, but we don't do it a bunch. We do it once or twice when we're building the gun, and that's it. Austin comes back and he says, is there any negative effect on just thumbing the hammer back during dry fire instead of racking the slide? There's no negative effect to that, Austin, but what you do see is you get a different perceived feel of the trigger pull if you thumb the hammer back instead of racking the slide. And the reason for that is you're not resetting the disconnector and sear with the hammer the same way as if you racked a slide. The disconnector is not being reset in the same manner. So I tell clients, if you're gonna dry fire, just rack the slide. You're not doing any damage, just by hand cycling the gun. You're not doing any damage at all. That's the perfectly acceptable way to do it. Jesse wants to know, he says, I've heard you talk about the problems with different finishes and that you only use bluing in DLC. Does that apply to small parts as well? What was the finish for the small parts on the regulators? Yes, that applies to all the parts here at Chambers Custom. We only use stainless steel or 50 bucks. So if you guys want to see a automatic 10% price increase in the guns, that's how it would happen, metal grips. There are some potential issues with those grips as far as fitment goes, and as well as far as they're prone to breaking off the front tab on the frame itself if they're not fit exactly precisely right. On a metal grip, you don't really need that front cross screw. People don't believe that, but it's true. You don't really need that front stabilization cross screw, but the makers of the grips continue to put the hole there, so you have to put the screw in, and if it's not fit exactly precisely right, over time it'll break that tab off, and there's no fix for that. Once that tab breaks off, basically the frame is what the frame is, and you're stuck with it at that point. So for those reasons, I don't have any plans on using the metal grips in the future. There are obvious other reasons, like it's heavier. It gives you there's more perceived recoil in a steel gripped gun like that than there is in the polymer grip. The polymer grip guns shoot a lot softer. So yeah, for all of those reasons, and I'm sure there's more that I'm not thinking of right at the moment, but for all of those reasons, I don't have any intention on using metal grips in the future. Tyler Reed wants to know if I could walk you through the process of creating an RDSM plate. Yes, I can. It basically involves a couple of 100 hours of me sitting down and drawing out what I want the plate to look like, taking measurements from different sighting systems, like for example the 509T plates that are being made currently, taking measurements from multiple sites to make sure that when I design a plate, it fits the different lots of castings that the manufacturer makes the sights from, because not all of those sights are made identically. They're done as a casting process, and then they're finished machined, so there are some variations. So you have to make sure you take into account those tolerances when you make the plate, so that if you get a replacement sight, for example, that you have to put on your plate, it fits. So there is some tolerance play involved in that. I also have to take into account on the 1911 style guns what sights will fit there and be effective. Some sights simply don't play well. For example, the Delta Point Pro, the sight's too long. It doesn't work well on a 1911 when you bury it deep like we do with the RDSM plate. So I've never designed a plate for that gun, or for that sight rather. The Acro is about the longest one that I've done and will do, and it's a giant shoebox on top of the gun, basically. I mean, you guys have all seen pictures of guns that I've done with the Acro, and it's a giant shoebox. Might as well be a bullseye gun at that point. So, but guys like the Acro, so we, like Jared in particular, so I made plates specifically for his guns. But that's the long and short of it, Tyler, of how I go about designing one. It's just hundreds of hours of drawing and measuring and machining things, prototyping. I use a lot of aluminum to prototype those, simply because aluminum's cheaper and a lot easier to machine. All right, next question is from Jesse again. I've heard you say you don't like making guns for competition. I assume you mostly mean open division. Whose guns for this application have your respect and approval? It's not that I don't like making competition guns. I enjoy it very much. When I was talking about that previously, I was referring specifically to bullseye guns. But this applies to competition all the way around. Most competitors, A, don't want to wait, and B, don't want to pay the price for what we do, quite frankly. The last open gun I built sold for almost $10,000, and guys they don't want to pay it. That gun literally sat on the market for 3 months before one of the guys who's a collector of my guns was like, dude, I got to have that gun. I know I'm not a competition shooter. I know I'll never ring out the accuracy and reliability of that gun, but I need to own that gun in my collection. So I sold it to him, and I actually sold it at a discount because he was a friend and because I knew he wasn't going to be using it for competition. Building competition guns, there's a lot of complications. Guys don't take care of their stuff typically. They abuse the hell out of it, and they tear it up and they break it, and then they expect you to fix it for free. And that's not the way you make a living working on guns. You can't fix stuff for free every day. So it's not that I don't like making them. I enjoy making them as much as I enjoy building any other work of art that shoots that we produce, but there's just no market there for me. The second part of your question is whose guns for this application have your respect and approval? To be totally honest with you, none. I've seen guns from every single high-end competition builder, high-end, price point wise, competition builder, and none of them really stack up to my standards. So I can't give you a recommendation and say, yeah, I approve of this gun for competition. I think it's one of those deals that if you're going to be a competitor, you need to do some research. You need to pay attention to some of the videos that are coming up of guns that I'm doing reviews on, and take that information to heart and go from there. The chances of you getting a competition gun from a major manufacturer of those type of guns, we're talking USPSA right here, that has barrel fit is zero. The chance of you getting a gun from one of those makers that has a slide to frame fit, that to what I consider a good standard, close to zero. The chance of you getting a gun from one of those major makers that's going to function right out of the box, close to zero. And I can say that with confidence, having seen guns from a lot of these different makers. And it's unfortunate, honestly, because there are some guys out there who are really talented who could build those guns, but they won't do it anymore simply because they're tired of dealing with people that don't want to pay the price for the guns, don't want to be patient and wait for the guns, and don't want to take care of the guns, so that they last a long time. And that's just really the whole summation of the issue for many of us that could build the guns or have in the past. All right, Michael H. says, what are the top 2 metrics of a build you need to hit to make sure it's reliable? That's a very complicated question, Michael. I don't know that there are 2 top metrics per se. It's a whole process. You see, on a single stack 1911, for example, there's approximately 56 parts, depending on the type of gun, that make up the gun, and any one of those parts, if fit improperly, can cause the gun to malfunction all the time. One minor example is, I see this all the time on guns, is grip screw bushings that protrude inside of the frame. If you have grip screw bushings that protrude inside of the frame, what can happen is it shifts your magazine to whatever side is opposite of that protrusion, and then it makes the round feed off center of the feed ramp, whether it's a ramped barrel or a non-ramped barrel, it doesn't matter. It makes the round come out of the magazine off center, which then causes malfunctions. So, even something as minor as a grip screw bushing has to be fit properly. Otherwise, it's going to cause you potential malfunction issues down the road. And that's to say nothing for frame ramp angle, chamber, the chamber finish reaming, or any of that stuff that is a major component. But it's oftentimes, the old saying, it's not the mountain in your path that stops you, it's the pebble in your shoe. That's really the truth of the matter when it comes to 1911s or 2011s or 2019s. Recently I heard a famous trainer say on a video that you can take a 2011 now and you can swap slides and barrels and triggers and trigger parts and all that stuff and have no issues, and he's absolutely 110 If the parts are fit properly, great. If they're not, it's a no-go at this station. All right, Danilo asks, is there a reason we haven't released the bushingless model? And this was answered in the replies to him on Patreon. We do offer a number of models that are cone barrels. They don't have bushings, like the C model, the Fat WMG C, the CRG, and the R model. We've built a regulator without a cone, or without a bushing, I'm sorry, with a cone. The new Nest gun that's coming out has a cone. Of course, the Light Fighter and the Night Stalker have comp barrels, so they don't have bushings. If you order a regular single stack WMG, that is a Commander, that comes with a cone barrel. We don't build full-size 5-inch WMGs with cones because I reserve the cone builds in full-size guns to the one-off customs that I build for clients that want me to build them something really special. And the majority of those guns that I do personally build are cone guns. There are exceptions to the rule, like the Morse code gun that I just did for my friend Norm, which he wanted a bushing. That's totally fine. He's a very traditional guy, so his gun got a bushing. No big deal. So yeah, Danilo, there are a lot of models that we do offer that don't have bushings, traditional bushing barrels that instead have the cone barrel. Danilo also asked me, when is the Greek God gun review coming in? I think the gun you're referring to is the John Galt gun. Whenever the guy sends it to me, that's what I'm waiting on, to be totally honest with you. The guy that owns that gun is a competitive shooter, and he has told me several times that he was going to send it in to me for review, but he hasn't sent it in yet, so here I sit waiting patiently. I have a Colt that I've done a review on that I'll be posting up in the next day or so, and I have a couple of others that are coming in, some really high-end customs that should make for interesting reviews also. All right, Jesse wants to know if it's safe to run reload drills dropping the slide with snap caps. Yeah, if you're putting the snap caps in the magazine, I see no problem with that. We actually use dummy rounds that we make here in the shop to do those, and that works really well. All right, Kyle S. Do I have any experience with the Atlas Gunworks line of pistols? Seeing some of the past reviews have been eye-opening, so I'm curious given their huge prices. Kyle, I do have experience with those guns. I don't talk about particular guns by name because I don't, that's just not how we do things here. There's a chance, as previous mentioned, if you caught it just prior to this in the Q&A, that I'll be doing a review on a gun called Who is John Galt, if the owner sends me the gun like he said he was going to, but we'll see. If he doesn't, I'll find somebody else that has a John Galt gun for me to do a review on. All I would say in regards to that is do your homework. All right, Robert Heichman wants to know, he has a Marvel ball gun that I built a long time ago, and the notch in the slide where the slide stop goes into the lock, the slide back is rounded with a burr on the edge. Can this be recut for a more positive slide lock? The answer is to that, Robert, most of the time, yes. It just requires a little bit of machining and some testing to make sure it works, but most of the time I can fix that problem. That's something that just happens because you're shooting really hot loads and it's hitting slide lock. It may mean that you need to change the recoil spring out. We use the Springco springs, which are good for about 30,000 cycles, which helps to prevent that. But yeah, the short answer to that, Robert, is I can probably fix that for you in short order. Just send me an email and we can talk about that. All right, so the Freedom Fighter is going to be a gun that Chuck Pressburg and I designed together. It's the third project that we've done together. Of course, we did the Night Fighter, we did the Light Fighter, and now's the Freedom Fighter. It's going to be a 9/11 commemorative gun, full-sized 2019 stainless steel pistol. I have permission from Warriors Heart Foundation to use their logo as the rear and front cocking serrations, which is going to be super cool. The gun will be tri-cut, full tri-cut, which we've not done before. It's going to have more than likely going to have some laser engraving or the Aztec pattern cut on the top with stippling. Haven't quite decided on that to the full extent yet. It'll be DLC coated, and then the flats of the slide and the frame are going to be sanded back off so that they're stainless steel, kind of a satin sanded finish, and it'll have a two-tone look with a black grip and a black magwell, RDSM plate capable on top, and then right below the ejection port will be hand engraved by my friend Doug Larson, "Never Forget." The serial number on these guns will be PCC 911 and then 01 through whatever, through however many we end up doing. We'll probably do a run of 25 just like we normally do, and I'm sure, you know, I can already tell you that 911-01 is already taken by Chuck, and 911-11 is taken by somebody else. Not that they pre-ordered. Guns, just like he's doing with the light fighters currently, and wrapping those up. So we're really excited about that, and the plan is currently, again, please keep this to yourselves, the patrons. I don't want this being public information, but the plan is those guns, you're going to see the first one on September 11th. If I can get all the pieces together to make the process work. I've already got Chuck's frame here, I've already got the slide here. It's just a matter of getting the cosmetic parts of it done and ready to go to DLC, and them working with me to get it back to me in time to be able to show it to everybody. And then we'll start taking pre-orders after that. We won't take pre-orders on September 11th because, quite frankly, that's kind of uncouth in my opinion. But that's when you'll get to see the pre-order or the prototype gun. I'm really trying hard to get these prototypes built before we launch them. Wasn't able to do that with the Ness because of things going on personally last summer, but everybody seems to understand that, so that's good. All right, so one last thing that I want to close out for you guys with. This is not public information, so please keep it here on the page. I don't know that I'm going to make it public information. I don't know that it's necessary outside of this circle here, but David Sharon no longer works for Chambers Custom. He resigned a couple of weeks ago and decided to go our separate ways. That's fine. The projects that he was completing right there at the end when he quit without notice, Eric and I have taken care of finishing those up, and you know, I wish him the best with whatever he decides to go and do. Sometimes things don't work out, guys don't work out, whatever, that's totally fine. I understand. No skin off my back. We're moving on with the projects just as we were before, and it's not going to slow our momentum down and what we're doing here with the shop. So with that, I want to tell you guys thank you so much for continuing to support me and the channel here. The poll is up out front, and we're just waiting on Windstream to get us scheduled for the high-speed Wi-Fi that they've been promising us for a while. I'm on their schedule, so whenever they can get out here and get that done, we'll get that up and going so that we can do these live and I don't have to do them recorded and splice the video together for you guys and all that. But thank you for your support while we continue to improve and grow, and I continue to bring you new content. I got a couple of videos that'll be dropping this weekend for you guys. One is a takedown video of a single stack WMG that people have asked about. Another one is how to replace the fiber in your fiber optic front sight properly so that it lasts a long time. And then the third one is going to be, aside from this one of course, is a mathematical review of a relatively current Colt that a client sent me to evaluate on whether or not I would build it into a gun for him. So with that, thanks for joining me and watching this video. I know it's long. I hope I answered all your questions, and remember, math don't lie. 3.14 is always pi. I'm Joe Chambers with Chambers Custom and 1911 University.